Okay, Rabbi, good evening. So we have tonight a holiday, Tu B'Av, it's called, right? The 15th of Av. So the sages mentioned in Masechet Tanit that the reason why Tu B'Av is a special day, it's a holiday. What's the reason why? Because there was 5 good things, tidings that occurred on that day, Tu B'Av.
You're going to say whatever inside, right?
Right, but we're gonna review a little bit what we said over there. There's 5 things that happened during Tu B'Av, 5 good events that happened. Just like we had on Tisha B'Av and the 17th of Tammuz, we had bad things that happened. Therefore, they made a fast day. So here on this day, there was 5 good events that occurred. So they noticed that this day is like a good day. It's a holiday. It's a happy day. It's destined to be good. Like divine decree. From Shamayim, from the heavens. So that's the reason why they made this day into a holiday. What was the first thing that occurred that they noticed this? This was when they were in the desert, right? When they came out of Mitzrayim. As we had the story of the spies, the Meraglim. So what happened was that now Kadosh Baruch Hu got angry at the Jews. They said, enough of you guys, right? Every time you're making a sin against me, you're rebelling against me. This time, I'm not going to let you pass by, right, so easily. So what did he say? He made a decree on the Jews that what? That every person should die from that generation. Nobody's going to go into Eretz Israel. Every one of them is going to die. What does that mean? From the age of 20 to 60, all those people were supposed to die in the desert. The original plan was not like that. The original plan was they were all supposed to go into Eretz Israel right away. Like immediately. That was the original plan. But because of the sins and all these things, so things got delayed. And the next Kadosh Baruch Hu said, you know what, I'm going to lead you into the desert for 40 years. This is unbelievable, right, in itself. To be in the desert for 40 years is something unbelievable. But nevertheless, what happened was that now he said everybody's going to die. What does that mean? Why from the age of 20 to 60? What's the reason why? Because those were the people who were in the army. Those were the people who were defending the Jewish people. They were considered to be, right, the defenders and the soldiers of the people. They're considered to be the main body of the Jewish people. So because of that, those people, those people, Kadosh Baruch Hu waited till they all died, until they all passed away, right? He did not.
New generation.
Right, he did not want to bring them to Eretz Israel until they all passed away. The only 2 that circumvented this decree was who? Yehoshua bin Nun and Caleb ben Yefuneh. What's the reason why those 2 were spared from this decree? The reason is because they were loyal to Hashem. All the other Meraglim, the spies, right? What happened was they rebelled against Hashem and they spoke Lashon Hara about Eretz Israel, as we discussed before, right? Several months ago regarding that, the issue of that they spoke Lashon Hara about Eretz Israel, that they tried to scare the people. So the only 2 of those Meraglim, those spies, that spoke positively about Eretz Israel and tried to foil their plans of the spies was these 2, right? Yoshua ben Nun and Caleb ben Yefuneh. So therefore, these were the only 2 they were able to enter into Eretz Israel. All the other ones was decreed that they should all die. What's the reason why? Because they believed the spies. They started to cry and to start to rebel. And they said, let's make a leader and go back to Mitzrayim. Right? Let's go back to where we came from. Right? That's the idea. That's what they said. So they, what they meant by leader, by the way. They meant that to make Avodah Zarah and to go back to Mitzrayim. So Kadosh Baruch Hu didn't allow all of them to go in except these 2. So what happened was that every year now there was a spectacle like this, unbelievable, right? That they all had to die, a certain amount of them. Every year are going to die. When was that? On Tisha B'Av. Since the Tisha B'Av was the day the decree was made, so every Tisha B'Av they would dig graves from themselves. They had to self-dig their own grave. Can you imagine? A person has to go and dig his own grave, and they had to lie there and wait. Yeah. And maybe they're going to die. What's going to be, right? How do they know that it's their turn to die? Because if they turn 60, that's already their time to die, right? That's because the age was only up to 60. That's it, right? So every year they would bury themselves and they would die like that, and that's it, right? They would be left behind and they would go forward and leave them there. The dead, they're buried over there. They would leave them. What else can you do, right? You can't take them with you. What are you going to do? Take them with you, right? So that's what happened. So every year was like this. So then after 40 years passed by, what happened was that now the last people who were 20, at the time the decree was made, now they got to the age of 60. So that was the last year that they were supposed to die. Once that time elapsed, those 40 years, the next year after that, they lost count of the real count. They didn't realize that now the decree was over. Why is it, by the way, that they made a mistake like this? That they didn't realize the decree was over. They knew it was only 40 years of decree, right? So then, How did they make a mistake and think that also this last year they're going to also die? Why did they think that? What's the reason why? You know why? Because they made a mistake in the calculation. What does that mean? They thought that the 40 years applied from when? From the time of the spies. That the spies, went and spoke Lashon Hara Eretz Yisrael. They thought the decree was made from there and onward. That was the idea, right? But the truth is that Kadosh Baruch Hu, what happened was that he had mercy on the Jews. So therefore, instead of making it from that day, which they made actually the sin, the decree, what he did was he pushed it back a little bit, the decree, from the time they left Egypt, the time they left Mitzrayim. So they gained over there like 1 year, whatever, fraction of a year, whatever. And this is the reason why these Jews made a mistake. They thought they were supposed to die also that year. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right, gave them a good news. What does that mean? They dug their own graves. They lied down over there. And what happened was, in Tisha B'Av, they woke up in the morning and they're still alive, Tzatzchar Liarian. Like Kubosh, he's still alive. It's like, oh, good morning, So what happened was they came out, right, of the graves, and they said something must be wrong, Maybe we made a miscalculation. They thought the miscalculation was like this, right? They thought that maybe they made a mistake with Rosh Chodesh. So maybe, right, this was not the date of Tisha B'Av. They thought maybe it was a mistake, right? A few days they made a mistake. So what they did was they waited a few days. Every night they went to the grave again to lie down over there, right? To wait a few days just in case they miscalculated the calendar. You know what I mean? So they waited 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights. And every morning they wake up. Again, right? Same thing. So what happened was that they waited until the 15th of Av, Tu B'Av, which is today, right? That's tonight. So what happened was that then they realized that for sure, right, the decree was already canceled. Why is that? Because they saw the moon was full. It was a full moon, In the middle of the month, the full moon becomes full. You go outside and you'll see, right? It's a full moon now. So because of that, what happened was they realized, they said, no, this is not a mistake. It must be that the decree is over. So what happened was that once they saw that the decree was over, they made a holiday, You probably, they made a nice seudah, they made a big holiday, they made nice everything, beautiful. Right, so what happened was that then they realized, wow, Praznik Yari was, this is a holiday for us this day. So they made it as a holiday because of that reason. This is the reason why they made this holiday. Later on, as history went on, right, as we explained also inside, because I want to tell all the people, over here on the Facebook and YouTube and all these places, right, and also David also used it, right. So next phase was like this, right? There was a time of Yerovam ben Nevat, who was the wicked king of Israel, and what he did was he made a decree when he became the king, and he took the kingdom of Rechavam. They split it into two, as we said, right? The kingdom was split into two: the southern kingdom, the northern kingdom. This was during the first Bet Hamikdash. So the southern kingdom was called Yehuda, and the northern kingdom was called Israel, right? Israel and Judah, right? So what happened was that Yerovam ben Nevat was the king of the northern kingdom. So what happens is that Yerovam ben Nevat was a very clever and shrewd guy, big Rasha, Didi Rasha, So what he did was, he said, one of the things that he sat down with his counselors, Yerovam ben Nevat, and he told them like this. He said, listen, we got to do something in order to preserve our kingdom, because their kingdom at the time was still new. It's a fresh kingdom. They just rebelled. So they made like a advice like this, right? From the counselors, they got advice. They said, you know what? The only way to prevent the people from going back to the southern kingdom, to Yehuda, is going to be that we have to stop them from going to the pilgrimage in Jerusalem for the holidays. Because there's a mitzvah, every holiday that there is, we're talking about Sukkot, Shavuot, right, and Pesach. On those 3 holidays, it's a mitzvah for all the Jews to gather in Jerusalem over there and make a pilgrimage, Bet HaMikdash. They make like sacrifices and all kinds of celebrations and all kinds of ceremonies. It's a big bash over there, On Sukkot also they used to make a big party over there, right? Dancing, right? You're right. They have deal, right? But Jewish style, right? Jewish style, kosher style, right? As they say, kosher style. Yeah, that's the idea. Let's Zeppelin, whatever. So that's the idea. So they used to make it like that, and what happened was that. Yerovam ben Nevat said, you know what, if we let them go for the holidays like this, down to the southern kingdom, to Yehuda, they're going to leave us. They're going to abandon us. Why? Why did you think they were going to abandon? What was the reason why? You know why? Because there was one problem, technically speaking, right? That the king of Yehuda, the southern kingdom, right, who comes from Malchut Bet David, from King David, they're the real kings, of Israel. They're the permanent kings. All the other kings are like temporary. You know what I mean? for a little while, a couple of generations, and then they go away right somewhere, and they get lost, whatever. They erase from history, right? Go fade into history. The only real kingdom that's lasts in Israel is from David, from Malchut ben David. So Yerovam ben Nevat was not from David, right? He was from Yosef. He was from Ephraim, right? So what happened was that he said, you know what? The problem is like this: that there's a special permission for the kings of David who come from David. When they come to Bet HaMikdash for the big celebration, as we said, for the holidays, the only one who can sit down in the courtyard of the Bet HaMikdash, with the Temple Mount over there, right? That's the idea, right? You know who's the only one who can sit over there? Everybody has to stand. There's no permission to sit over there. It's a holy place, The only person who can sit there is the king of David, right? Of the Davidic dynasty. So he said, you know what it's going to be? We're going to go down there. I'm going to go down there to Yerovam ben Nevat. We're going to be all together. He's going to be sitting, Rechavam, the kid from David. I'm going to be standing, look like a chump, look like a second-class king. You know what I mean? So therefore he said, this is not going to look good. And because of that, they're going to think like, I'm second-rate king. And they're going to leave us, abandon us. So he said the only way to prevent this from happening, you know what it is? He said we have to put officers, station them all over the country, that they should not be able to go down there for the pilgrimage. We're going to forbid this. It's going to become like something which is taboo. This is the idea. Understand? This is all politics. Politica bigageta. So what happened was, right, that he put officers there. He stationed them, and he told them, not only that, look how wicked he was, right? Rasha he was. Not only he did that for his own kingdom, for his own personal stake. You know what I mean? He's considered to be more important than the whole world. This guy, right? The ego, he's a narcissist. This is the ultimate in narcissism. So what does he do? Not only that, right? He makes new holidays for the Jews to keep them in the northern kingdom, in Israel, which are not the same holidays that we have, from the Torah. He made new holidays. Can you imagine? Like a new, he made a total new system of a year, exactly, just to guard his own honor. That was the whole thing. That was the whole.
Sounds like Hussein Obama.
So, what happened was, right, that he made all these holidays, and these holidays became idolatrous holidays in the end. That's what happened, right? Because he stationed two idols, one in Dan, one in Bet El, one in the north, one in the south of his kingdom, right? Relatively speaking, north and south. So what happened was that kingdom became totally idolatrous because of that. Number one, because there was the two idols that were stationed, and also they changed the holidays, they changed everything. They made it into a different religion. He made a new religion. This guy reform. He totally abolished everything. You understand? This was a Jew.
Yeah, I was just.
It's a Jewish man. Can you imagine? All for his ego. For his own kingdom. That was the idea. Power corrupts, right? Absolute power corrupts, absolutely, right? That's the idea. He got totally corrupted. So what happened was that they made the system that nobody can go. So this system of the officers, sentries that did not allow them to go, stayed for about 300 years. This whole system. He already died, Yerovam ben Nevat. There was other kings that came after him, more and more and more and more. Towards the end of the kingdom, the last king of this kingdom, right, the northern kingdom, which was called Israel. The southern kingdom was called Judah, right? That's Judah and Israel, right? That's the area. So what happened was that the northern kingdom, the last king his name was Hoshea ben Elah. That was his name. Hoshea ben Elah. So this guy was from Shevet Reuven. They say, by the way, that there was kings in the first Bet HaMikdash. There was a king from every tribe. Every tribe had at least one king that came from them. So even from Shevet Reuven, there was a king. In the end. This was a guy. So what happened was that this guy, Hoshea ben Elah, he decided, from the mercies of his heart, whatever, that he's gonna cancel this whole thing with the sentries, the officers, to prevent them from going there. Teshuvah's dabrunta, he did teshuvah. He said, you know what, enough is enough. That's it, right? We're gonna cancel the system. We'll let them go. If whoever wants to go to Jerusalem can go, right? Have a good trip, safe trip, right? Don't speed on the day, right? Don't get a speeding ticket. Go slow, come back nice and safe. Everything is kosher. Baruch Hashem.
But Rabbi, this king that made up his own divine whatever, he still prayed to God.
He pretty much, he himself, by the way, was the greatest Torah scholar. He was the biggest Talmid Chacham. Can you imagine? So he knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing, but nevertheless to preserve his own honor. You understand? So what happened was that little by little, it wasn't meant to be that way in the beginning. To be totally idolatrous. but it became like that. It degenerated. Little by little. That's what happens, right? When you start to reform Judaism, little by little, it becomes worse and worse and worse and worse until one day, you become a Christian. All of a sudden you're in church. You wake up one day.
Evolution.
You know what I mean? Yeah, evolution, right? Devolution, right? Whatever. Right?
Are today's reformists his followers, or?
It's one spirit basically. You know what I mean? That's the idea, right? So there's all kinds of
He would have been never. He kept the old Jewish laws. I mean, not laws, holidays, and he had to deal.
No, he canceled them. Gabat Lasur. Yeah, that's he abolished them. That's why. Can you imagine such a thing like this? Unbelievable, this guy. Right? He made it in a different month, even. Right? Not only different day, different month. Right? That's unbelievable. This guy, what he did. Right? Such a sinner. Right? So what happened was that now Hoshea ben Elah opened up the roads and let them go. This took 300 years for this to occur, right? So what happened was, on the one, this day that he opened it up, what day was that? It was Tu B'Av, right? Today, right? That's the holiday, right? That's the second reason why it's a holiday, because the roads were opened up to go to the Jerusalem. That was the second reason, right? So they say actually in the Gemara that there was also something bad about this event, though. You know what was bad? The truth is, right, that this was the last king of the northern kingdom of Israel. And after that came Sancherib, the king of Ashur, right, the Assyrian king, and exiled them. He destroyed the kingdom, right? Little by little, in phases. First he started off with one phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, he took away, right, he sent to Galut many different Jews, many different areas. By the way, they say that the Georgian Jews come from this Galut. They come from there, right? Because we were in Georgia for a very long time, 2,700 years, whatever it is, right? If you make a calculation with the years, it comes out exactly this time. You know what I mean? So we see from there, right, that when Sancherib sent the Jews to Galut, the 10 tribes, the Georgians were also right from there, somewhat, right? Whatever. I don't know if all of them, but some of them. That's the idea, right?
Because you said not all Georgians come from the same.
Exactly. There's different phases over there also, right? There are different times, yes. For sure, right? There's Lachluchebi, there's this, right? All kinds of phases, different periods, all kinds of things.
I know why my father never looked Georgian.
Interesting. Okay.
Very light hair.
Yeah, Georgians are very light-skinned. They're light-skinned people.
They look more European.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I understand. There's different,
And Jimmy has blue eyes. I've never seen blue eyes.
So let me tell you something interesting.
Custom made.
Custom made. I got you. Okay. So interesting, right? That what happened was that they abolished this whole thing, but nevertheless, this was the last king. What does that mean? They went to Galut. So the question is like this: so it should be just the opposite, right? That if this guy did a mitzvah opening up the ways to go through Jerusalem, Kadosh Baruch Hu should have given them more time, right? Extended that time. So why did they go to Galut? Because of this king who was better than all the other kings, relatively speaking, right? He was better. Right? So you know what the Gemara says? Actually, this was something bad, what he did. It turned out bad also. He didn't mean it that way, but it turned out that way. You know why? Because now he opened up the roads, right? But nobody was going. Can you imagine? No customers, Nobody's heading that way. Why? Because they already got used to living like that. For 300 years they're living like this. You understand? They don't even know what that means anymore to go to Jerusalem. They forgot about that. We're talking about 10 generations already after that. You know what I mean? So since nobody was going, this made accusation against the Jews, to say, you know what? You see, the Jews, they can go, but nobody wants to go. That's why they went to Galut, they say, right? This is the reason why. They went to Galut. So this was considered to be but anyway, nevertheless, right, since he opened up the roads, on this day, it was considered to be a holiday, right, because of that reason as well. There's also another thing, right, which is unbelievable. Here we're talking about the first temple, right? Then in the second temple, there was also the Bar Kokhba rebellion, right, which happened during the second Bet HaMikdash. What happened was the second Bet HaMikdash was also, if you look in the Gemara Masechet Gittin, it was also destroyed in phases as well. There was different phases there. It wasn't like one shot. So what happened was that the Romans, as we said, right, they besieged Jerusalem for 3 years. It took them 3 years to go inside there and destroy Jerusalem. But there was still one city that remained rebellious against the Romans, right? That they would not give up. The Romans were not able to conquer them. You know what city that was? Right, today they call this Betar, right? Betar. There is actually now a city like that in Israel. Betar, right? It's a religious place, religious people over there. But the truth is, right, according to Sephardi custom, our tradition, right, it's called Beter, not Betar. Whatever. It's a little bit nuance over there, right? Whatever it is, today called Betar. By the way, the Betar they have today is not in the same location that it was before. Not the same place. They just named it Betar, It's like a symbolic kind of thing. Okay, nice, symbolic. Symbolism is good. whatever. But it's not the same location, right? But many other cities are in the same location, right? For instance, like Jerusalem, Hebron, we know, right? All these places are the same location exactly, right? Shechem, right? What do you call it? Also, Akko, all these places we know for sure that's the same location as it was before. Nothing has changed. You know how we know that? Because all the historic buildings are still there. You know what I mean? Artifacts and all these things. And also the Arabs, know as a tradition because they lived there for many long. They have a tradition that this is the place. We're sure there are places for sure we know that this is the place. There are places that we don't. We're not sure. Or for sure it's not like that. That's the idea, right? So there's Betar or something different today, whatever. But it's nice anyway to remember. But this Betar, what happened was that they say this was a very large city. It was a huge metropolis, not a small town. Something like unbelievable, right? Huge metropolis. So what happened was that there's a machloket in the Gemara, Masechet Gitin. How many people were in this city? How many people lived there, right? According to one opinion, there was 4 million people there, right, in that city. Another opinion says there was 40 million people there. Can you imagine? Like Hong Kong, like Shanghai, whatever, even bigger than that. Can you imagine? Something unbelievable, right? Like whatever. So what happened was that this city, the Romans were not able to conquer. They had this leader, right, Bar Kokhba, who came out all of a sudden, and he was a great warrior, this guy. So he had an army of the toughest people, like these people were invincible. So the Romans never touched them. Every time they would try to do something with them, right, they would repel them, like flies, kill them, destroy them. The Romans were not able to touch the city. So, there's a question about that, right? What was the secret of this city that the Romans never able to touch? So they say, right, that the truth is that there was one thing over there. There was this big rabbi that was living there, big chacham, one big chacham, and he was a big tzaddik, big chassid, somebody like Baba Sali, somebody like this, right? The whole world stands on his shoulders, So as long as this rabbi was alive, they were not able to penetrate to the city. His zechut was keeping the city from being conquered. So how did the city get conquered in the end? In the end, it got conquered. You know what happened? So what happened was, right, there was this one Rasha over there living in this town, like a trader, like a Gabkidwali, somebody who, right? So what happened was, right, exactly, somebody like that. So what happened was that this guy, he devised a plan. He went to Bar Kokhba, who was the king, and he told Bar Kokhba, he says, this rabbi, who lives over there, on Main Street and 72 over there, this guy is rebelling against you. He has a plan to overthrow you. It wasn't true, by the way. It was a lie. So he went to Bar Kokhba and told him like this. So Bar Kokhba asked him, he says, how do you know all these things? So he gave him all kinds of fake reasons, all kinds of fake stuff. He made like a whole, conspiracy, something like that. He squealed on him like that. So Bar Kokhba came to this rabbi, he told him, he says, I heard you rebelled against me. So he told the rabbi told him, he says, no, he says, your honor the king, I have nothing against you, I didn't do nothing against you. So Bar Kokhba didn't believe him, So what happened was that he took with his own leg, he kicked him, gave him one big kick, and he killed him, finished him off. So they say once he finished off this rabbi, the Romans came in and conquered. Right? This was the whole thing. So what happened was that the Romans were so nasty with this city. You know why? Because this was like a stronghold, opposition. Against the. So they were like very. The Romans were very cruel people. They had cruel punishment, very cruel. So what happened was that they killed off the whole city, from wall to wall. Right? Some say 4 million, some say 40 million. Can you imagine? Slaughtered everybody. They went inside there, a big slaughter, right? It makes the Holocaust look like a child's game. You understand? That's what you have to know Jewish history, right, to understand how many Jews have died, right, with the hands of these Romans. How many people were slaughtered? So what happened was Romans came in there. Not only they killed everybody, but to be cruel, to them, to make a point. They didn't now allow one body to be buried. They left everybody above ground. Can you imagine? All the dead bodies unburied, and the stench was coming up. And the smell was everywhere, The whole area was from stench. They were not allowed them buried. This went on for many, many months, this whole thing. No burial. Can you imagine? Dead bodies just sitting there. That's how cruel they were, these Romans. They're going to be destroyed one day, believe me. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take revenge on them. You will see, right, what's going to be to them, right? This is going to be a child's play to what's going to happen to them, these people, right? They're the cruelest, most vicious people, these people. They have no morality. They have no nothing. So what happens is, right, that now, on Tu B'Av, the decree was made that allowed them to be buried. This was also one of the good things that happened to B'Av, that they allowed these dead bodies to be buried. It was done also to B'Av, right? So we see, right, there were several things. As we also mentioned, right, that this was also the day that the daughters of Jerusalem used to come out. One of the days, right? There was 2 days like this. It was like a matchmaking day, to find a wife. So what happened was like this, right? That on that day, the girls would come out, the single girls, the virgins, those, whatever. They would come out and dance in the vineyards, whatever, in the gardens, whatever. And each one would put out like a nice white dress, and they would dance together, going around in circles, like Jewish style, Jews like to dance in circles, They don't dance like this boogie way, boogie woogie. They go around, right? It's a different culture, right? So it happens like this, right? That they used to dance, and the boys would come over there, and look, take binoculars, look around, right? See what's going on, right? They would find a girl that they like. They would go to the father or mother and tell them, "Chawat kotzakna," Okay, let's get married, we'll make a wedding, engagement, wedding, blah blah blah, right? Okay, dowry, padakev, what do they call it, right? Those things, right? Right. So what happens in all these things? Bzitevi, right? Bzitevi. So they would do all these things, and this was a day for shidduchim, So this was considered to be a very happy day. They would come out and dance. The boys would come over there, find the shidduch, and this kinds of thing, right? So this was considered to be also a happy day because of that. There was 2 days they used to do this, right? One was Yom Kippur. Also, they did the same thing. Can you imagine? On Yom Kippur, they were coming out to dance. So we see from there that Yom Kippur is a happy day, right? It's not a sad day, Yom Kippur. It's not like Tisha B'Av. You don't have to be sad and crying. There's no reason to be sad on Yom Kippur. Why is Yom Kippur a good day, happy day? Because our sins are being forgiven. You have to be happy for that. What are you sad about? You're getting a free, free lunch over here, freebie. It's not so free. You're also fasting. You're afflicting yourself. It's not for free. But nevertheless, right, it's considered to be something very, very great. Your sins are being forgiven, so it's considered to be a very, very good day. So therefore, these 2 days were considered to be. This is the reason why Tu B'Av is considered to be, right, a very, very special day. And right, this is also changing the tone. Why is that? Because, as we said, right, that the month of Av is considered to be bad luck for the Jewish people, bad fortune, right? But this now changes the tone altogether, right? Turns it into something good. This is tonight, right? Tomorrow. This is the Tu B'Av. This is the idea, right? So there is all kinds of, there's a reason here to be happy and to be joyous and celebrate a little bit, We don't say tachanu, we don't say vidui in the shul, we don't say, right, all these things. We don't do all these kinds of things. Yeah, we put tefillin, for sure, yeah. But it's not a Yom Tov, right? It's not like that. It's not kaidre. It's not kaidre. Right. That's the idea. There's also another thing it says in the Gemara, by the way, right? That this time of Tu B'Av is considered to be it changes modes. There's a change of mode going on over here. What does that mean? That until now, this point, right, we're getting into the heavy part of the summer, the depths of the summer, right? What does that mean? The days are very long and the nights are very short, right? That's the way it is in the summer, right? Just the opposite of the winter. So because of that, what happens is that since the days are long and the nights are short, there's not really the night, the night is not really long enough to do everything you want to do at night. What does that mean? What does a person need to do at night, right? Not to go to nightclubs. I'm not talking about that, right? That's not what a person should be doing at night, right? The underground, whatever, all those things, right? Not going over there. Not places like this, right? So what should he be doing? What should he be doing, right? 6th Avenue, yeah, 6th Avenue, right? Okay. So, right. So not like places like this. So what should a person be doing at night? There's one thing for sure a person needs to do at night, which is to sleep, right? You got to sleep a little bit, right? 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, whatever your body needs, right? Depending on the person. Everybody does something else, right? But you need to sleep. So then, once you do that, you sleep 6 hours, 8 hours. There's not much time left, especially in the summer. The night is very short. So then, what else should a person be doing at night? The most important thing the person should be doing is to studying Torah. That's what it says right in the Halakha. Brought down the Rambam, brought down the Talmud, that they say that the night was made for Torah. So a person has an obligation always to learn Torah at night. Why dafka? Why precisely at night? There's several reasons, right? According to a simple meaning, the reason is because there's more quiet in the night. You're not working, you're not out there making money and business, all kinds of things. So you have a little bit of quiet time, like downtime, you have a little bit. So this is time to learn Torah because you shouldn't be wasting your time. Now this is a free time that person has. Your children go to sleep, your wife is sleeping, everybody wants to sleep. So you have now late night, So don't go now. What does the fool do? Right? What does he do? He takes his remote control and starts looking on cable TV, and this kind of stuff. Looking for channels to see this, to see that, right? Instead of using his time to learn Torah, wasting time, right, with all that nonsense, right? It goes on there, right? This news and that news, and he said this, and the tweeter, he tweeted like this, he tweeted like. Who cares what he tweeted, right? Let them all go to tweet, right? Who cares what they tweet, right? What is it going to help you to hear these stupid tweets, all these nonsense, right, that they talk about? A person should be learning Torah at night, you know what I mean? That's the idea. So because it's a quiet time, This is also the reason. But the truth is, right, there's something even more than that. It says in the Kabbalah, it says in the Zohar Kadosh, that a person who learns Torah at night, especially I'm talking about after midnight, the second part of the night, right? The wee hours, the late hours, right? The late show. So over there, if you're learning that the time, it says Zohar Kadosh, what happens is that all that next day, which is going to be the next morning, right? He's going to have the chesed, sikate, on that day. It's going to have good tidings, good mazal, good for success, right? An easy time, not to have to work too hard. So a person who takes time out to learn during that time, from midnight, which is like about 1 o'clock now in the morning, right, until the morning, which is about, the dawn is about, let's say, about 4:30, like whatever it is. Those 4 hours, if he's learning those 3 or 4 hours, that's considered to be, right, next day he's going to have a big success, big chesed, very sikate, That's the idea.
4 hours, not 8 hours.
Well, that's the idea. Now, since the nights are short, so it's hard to do all these things together. You know what I mean? This is the problem. So there's not really much time to do both. So a person has to make, sacrifice. This at the expense of that a little bit, right? Also, you got to eat dinner a little bit, right? You got to eat something also at dinner. You got to, you got to take care of your body a little bit. This, that, whatever. There's a few things to do at night, But the point is, right, that in the summer, there isn't much time to learn. You know why? Because you have to sleep, a few hours, and there's not much time left over. So you can learn a little bit in the summer, not too much. But what happens is that now, once Tu B'Av comes, this is considered to be like the shift now, the days are getting now shorter, nights are getting longer, right? Just the opposite, right? It's going the other way. So it says in Gemara, a person has to take advantage of that. What does that mean? After Tu B'Av comes, he should try to learn more at night now. Since the nights are getting longer, he has more time, so make an effort, right? And it says, Lo Aleinu, right? If a person doesn't do that, he doesn't increase his Torah study after Tu B'Av, right? He gets a punishment for that, I don't want to tell you what it says, I want to scare you. But, right, I'll spare you the gory details, right? But, I'm sorry, Mechila.
If that day we don't study Torah?
Not that day, but after that day. In other words, every night, a person should try to learn more Torah at night. That's the idea, So the momatos. That's the idea, right? Gradually increase a little bit more and a little bit more. Right? As we said, right, a person, especially if he learns after midnight, is considered to be a very, very big thing. You should know, by the way, that the big rabbis, the Mekubalim, they were always very, 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 very careful to do this. They never slept after midnight. They would always wake up, right when midnight comes. That's what David HaMelech did also, right? It said in the Gemara, David HaMelech, when midnight came, he had a special instrument, right, which was like a violin, a fiddle, kinor. What's that, right? So what happened was that he had a special kinor, a special fiddle. So this fiddle was designed in a way that it was like hanging off his roof, right, off his ceiling, and the wind would come, right, and play the kinor. With the wind it would play. It was designed like that, right? It was a special instrument like that. It goes by the wind. So what happened was, right, that at midnight there comes a north wind, they say, right, and it starts to blow. So that once that wind would come, it would play that fiddle. And David would wake up, after from his sleep, and start to learn Torah and to sing songs to Hashem until the morning, right? That's what he would do, right? Then in the morning they go pray early, right? Netzach Haman, when the sun comes up. So you have a beautiful night like that, right? All holy, holy and beautiful. Nothing better than that, right? That's what David HaMelech used to do. So all the Mekubalim also did like that, from all generations like this, until this day, by the way, right? When it comes to after midnight, they wake up, and says in the Zohar Kadosh regarding that, the Kadosh Baruch Hu listens to all the Divrei Torah which is being said at that time. He comes down to Gan Eden, with the souls over there, Neshamot, and they all listen to the people who are learning Torah in this world at that time, of night. And he gets a very big chesed the next day. So, right, I'm telling you, right, something, this is not halakha, of course, this is Hasidut, because people are sleeping at that time, but the ones who are really Hasid, the ones who are really pious, then they never sleep at those hours. They get up and they start learning Torah until the morning they go. So what happens like this, right? Getting back to what we said. So since now the nights are longer and the days are getting shorter, so a person has to increase this, right, and learn more Torah. That's the idea, right? So that also for Tu B'Av also marks that switch, right? That from one phase to the other. That's the idea. Okay, so I want to tell you also something interesting, right? Regarding the issue of customs of Israel. Because, in Torah, we have several different things in Torah. We have the laws of the Torah, the 613 mitzvot, right, that are written in the Torah, or written in Talmud, in the oral Torah. We have those things. We also have other things which are rabbinical. The rabbis made all kinds of edicts. They made all kinds of takanot. They added all kinds of things. This was done throughout the history. But there was also a different category, which is what? That it's not in the Torah. It's not. It wasn't made by the rabbis, but it's called a minhag. It's called a custom, right? Minhagia. So the question is like this, right? That when it comes to these customs, when are we obligated to keep them? Are we obligated to keep them? Is it obligation? It's not obligation, just recommended. It's a good thing to do, right? Who commanded us to keep these minhagim, these customs? That's the question, right? What status does it have in Am Yisrael? Because the truth is, right, that people are crazy for minhagim. Sometimes, if you go to like a certain communities, they care more about the minhagim than they care about the laws of the Torah. Like we talked about the issue of eating meat, right, during the 9 days, right? That's only minhag during the 9 days, not to eat meat, right? So Jimmy told me, right, the Georgians are very careful about that. Okay, they're very nice, good, very good. I'm very happy about that. But this is just only a minhag, right? But there are certain things which are from the Torah, and it's supposed to be more important. But sometimes what happens is that people are so attached to their minhagim, to their customs, they keep those more closely than they keep the laws of the Torah. So the question is, where we draw the line over here. How do we right to put everything in perspective, in the right place, in the right order. That's the idea. So we have to understand, right? What is it? So the truth is, right? The Chazal say, Poskim say one thing about minhag, right? Minhag Yisrael Torahi. What does that mean? The customs of Israel are considered to be also Torah, even though nobody commanded you to do them, even though, right, God did not command us, and all the rabbis did not command us. So then, why is it considered to be Torah? What's the reason why? What kind of Torah is that? Well, I made it up. It's Torah. The community made it up, right? Made it up. That's called Torah. What kind of thing is this, right? So the reason why it's called Torah, you know why? Because once the community takes on to do something, a certain minhag, and it was taken on by the whole community, so what happens is it becomes like a neder, you make it's like a vow, because since everybody does it, if you do it a few times and everybody's doing it, so even though you were not commanded to do so, but now that you took it on as a vow, as a neder, everybody's doing it, so you're obligated, right? That gives it a legitimacy from the Torah. You know why? Because the Torah says anything you do on a regular basis, you took it on, and you do it regularly, it becomes a neder. It's like you vow to do it. So this is the reason why minhagim have a force, right, a power of being obligatory in one sense, right? Because once the community takes it on, it's considered to be like a neder. This is the idea. This is the reason why minhag is obligation in one sense. On the other hand, right, they used to tell, there was a story brought down from the rabbis. There was, one big rabbi, Rabbi Tam, right, who was in the time of Rashi. He was a grandson of Rashi. So they say regarding Rabbi Tam, one time they told him, why don't you keep this minhag? They told Rabbi Tam, you don't keep this minhag that we have. Everybody else keeps it, you don't keep it. What kind of rabbi are you? So what it told him, right? It says minhag afuch geinam. What does that mean? If you take the letters of minhag and spell them backwards, it spells geinam. Jojocheti, That's the idea. So he said, that's the idea, right? That's what he told him. So why did Rabbi Tam say this? What is his business? He's playing a letter game, word games? What is his business? Huh? Is that the job of a rabbi, to play word games? But actually, right, there's something very deep over here. What does that mean? That even though, as we said, right, that minhag of the Jews is called Torah, in one sense, because it's a neder. On the other hand, there are some minhagim which are like jojocheti, geinam, they're hell. Minhagim of hell. That's what they are. Why is that? What's the reason why? Because they're bad minhagim. Tuli minhagibia, Exactly, that's the idea. Oh, now you got it, right? That's the idea, right? There are certain minhagim which were not made by big rabbis. They're not made by smart people, wise, chachamei, chachamei Israel. They were made by amei aratzot, ignorant people. They start to do something, and then everybody started to follow them, like domino effect, Right? Everybody falls down. So what happens is, right, that now everybody's doing it, but nobody knows why they do it. Nobody cares about it. Nobody investigates. Nobody cares. They just do it, like everybody's just doing it. That's what goes by the wind. So said Rabbi Tam, right? If you have this kind of minhag, which is what? Not only that it was. No, it's the Torah, the Bitul Torah. We cannot do them. Sorry. Don't come up next time, okay? Please, don't bother us. Thank you. Next time, don't come. You're bothering us. It's Bitul Torah. So what happens like this? Let them go. So what happens like this? Okay. So that's also minhag afuch geinam. Right? It's jojocheti. That's the idea.
They need also.
Torah comes first, Torah comes before this minyan, right? That's the idea, right? We have a appointed time to learn Torah. We cannot now break up the learning because of minyan. Somebody's minyan. Yeah, let them go to Bet Gabriel, they have over there 10 o'clock. Baruch Hashem. Let them drive over there, right? Why not? Okay, so getting back to what we said everything. So there are some minhagim which are like Gainam. What does that mean? What it means is that the minhag is against the halacha. The logic of the minhag is no good. It's not logical. It doesn't go according to the structure of the Torah, the ways of the Torah. It's made by fools, it's a foolish minhag. Debil abis minhag, yeah, that could be one idea, right? Or something like that. So the truth is, right, that when a minhag is like this, it goes against the halacha, goes against the Torah, the logic of the Torah, the principles of the Torah. So what do we say about that? It's a mitzvah to battle it, to cancel that, this minhag. So, that's the job of a good rabbi, by the way. If a rabbi sees that there are minhagim like this, the community has bad minhagim, to the minhagim, I remember when we came here to the shul, when we built the shul, there was like a silly minhag like this. You know what it was? When we used to say Sim Shalom, the Chazrat Hashatz, right? Everybody would like go around, make it like a 360. So I remember, the rabbi objected against it. He said, "What is this minhag? Like a yo-yos, bunch of yo-yos going around like a yo-yo. Who gave this? Where does this come from? From the sky you got it, from Shamayim. So he told him not to do it, right? He was right, by the way. Why should we do those kinds of things? All kinds of going around like this. What is this business? Don't do something which has some logic in Torah, some Torah principles, some Torah ideas inside there. Don't just make up, Yeah, what do you say? It's kind of silly, It's a silly thing. There's no such a thing like that, Yeah, because you look like a fool, Makes you look like a.
And it also returning.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
After the Quran, we read the Quran.
Yes.
We read the Quran, those things.
Right. Oh, yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Right? So two things, right? That yes, right. And right. So as a good rabbi,
Which one is correct, right or left?
They're both not necessary. Believe me. Just. So the idea is like this, Rabbi, that especially, right? Okay, this minhag, right? It's like silly, but at least it's not really like doing something bad. Tzodok yerar, they're not tzodok, But there are certain minhagim that are even tzodok. They're like sins, like they're sinful. They can cause a person to do a sin, chas v'shalom, So things like this, if a rabbi sees, right, that there's some kind of a sinful idea there, or it's against the Torah, or it's silly, ridiculous, no logic there. So really, it's a mitzvah to gabatlos, to cancel this kind of minhagim. A rabbi has to, to watch for the community, see what's going on. That's the job of the rabbi, to take care of these things. But this is what Rabbi Nutam was saying. When you have a crooked minhag, so what the play on the words over here is like this, right? Minhag hafuch. What does that mean? Minhag hafuch means right upside down. That's the idea, right? Hafuch. So what does that mean? If you invert, as we said, if you invert the letters, it comes out gainam, right?
What is the hafuch?
But it's also right. It's not only inverted in the letters. There's also it's inverted in logic. You understand? It's ridiculous. That's what it means, right? Stupid minhag. Debilabis. Minhag of fools. So when you have like this, right? It's this jojocheti tzachwalo. If you keep minhagim like this, you go to jojocheti. You go to the wrong place instead of going to Gan Eden, right? You take you to the other side. Why is that? Because it can cause you to sin. It can cause you to do something wrong also. Against halacha. So things like this, right? So really, the truth is, we see from here that what. That minhag on the one hand it's Torah, if it was done proper way, right, by the leaders of the community, the chachamim, the wise people, it was made by them. That's something good. But if it's something which was made by the fools, ignorant people, so this is called ginam jijocheti. That's something else, right? Two different things. Also, it really depends on what is the origin of the minhag, the custom. The origin. Where did it come from? Question is like this, right? Let's say you don't know where it came from. You're not really sure. Like you try to find out. You ask some people, some say like this, some say like that. Everybody gives you a different story, right? So you're not really sure where this custom comes from and what the reason is. So then what do you do then, right? So the truth is that in a case like that, what it says in several poskim? It says in a Tur, in the Choshen Mishpat, brings down the name of the father, the Rosh, considered to be one of the great Rishonim, and also brought down the Chida, in the name of the Maharash Amar. He brings down, right? They say that let's say you're a minhag, and it's not really so clear if there is such a thing, a custom like this. Some say we have such a custom, some say we don't have such a custom. It's not so clear, right? If we're obligated to do it or not. Some say yes, some say no. Or there are some shuls that do it, some shuls that don't do it, right? So in a case like this, it's a safek, it's a doubt. So in cases like that, we say, right? When in doubt, throw it out, right? That's the idea, right? That's also here we say the same thing. When the minhag is not so clear that you're obligated to keep it, and it's not so clear that it's a good minhag, you're not so sure what the origin is. So minhag like that, a person is not obligated to keep it minhag like that. It's not so clear that it's real. It's a real. Not so clear that it's logical. It's not so clear that it's according to the Torah. It's not so clear. Many things are not clear. Also, it's not so clear if it applies to us. Right? Exactly. Just forget about it. That's the idea. You're not obligated to do it. That's the idea. So when it's a safek, when there's a doubt, right, we throw it out. What's the reason why this is? So explains over there the Chidah. The reason is like this, right? That when you have a minhag, what makes you obligated to keep that minhag? The fact that that the Talmud tells you that you did something 3 times, it's considered to be like a neder. It's like you're habituated already with that. So if the whole community does that, it's like a minhag for everybody. But the truth is, right, that this is only from the rabbis. It's only rabbinical. Why is that? Because really, the only thing which is considered to be a neder, according to the Torah, is when you said something, verbally. You took on neder, I promise I won't do this. I swear I won't do this, right? There's all kinds of things. Like when you say it with your mouth, that neder is from the Torah. But when you just accustom yourself to do something, and it was never decreed or said or whatever, so there it's considered to be only rabbinically this neder. So therefore we say, right, there's a rule in halakha. Sapek d'Rabbanan yakil. Whatever is doubtful and it's from the rabbis, we go lenient. So here also, you understand, since it's rabbinical, this whole thing, and since we're not sure if this minhag is real or relevant to us, all these kinds of things, right? So we do as we said, we're not obligated to keep this minhagim anymore. That's the idea. So whatever is like this, right? By the way, the classic case for us, for our community, right, is the issue of eating kitniot on Pesach, eating rice, let's say on Pesach, right? Right, exactly, right. That's the idea. That's the idea. Oh, very good, right? That's the idea. So the truth is, right, if you go back and you research this idea of the Georgians eating rice on Pesach, right, there's several things that we have to know, right? We have to point out. Number one is that there were certain cities that they were eating rice on Pesach there. Right. I'm sorry, even in Georgia. Yeah. There were saying right. They were eating over there.
That's what I just said.
Right, that's the idea, right? So the truth is, right, that we're not really even sure that it wasn't everywhere. For sure that we know, it wasn't everywhere. Right. But okay, interesting.
Nobody ate except in the house.
Right. But the question is like this, right? Also, the fact that nobody ate. What is the reason behind that? What is the reason? We're not really, to be honest with you, we're not really sure what the reason is. Probably the reason is because what the Ashkenazim. That's the reason why the Ashkenazim don't do it as well.
Sorry.
Why the Ashkenazim don't? Yes.
Also, if you don't do 3 years, sometimes the Roger will get
That's what we're talking about. 3 times, right? That's 3 times. Yeah, that's the idea, right? That also has its own rules, by the way. We're going to talk about that, right? The law also has its own rules regarding that. We have to also explain that as well. But the idea is like this, right? The Georgians, number one, probably the reason why they were not eating rice in most places is because there was a problem with the sacks, that they were putting the rice into. That they were using the same sacks for the wheat and also the rice as well. They would empty out the wheat, right, and then put rice in there, and then empty out this, put this, that, right? What happened was that sometimes they were left over there some wheat, right? This is the reason why the Ashkenazim, right, they point out that they were not eating kidniot. It's because they were using the same sacks for the rice and the wheat as well. In our generation, by the way, that doesn't apply, this whole thing. Why is that? Because everything has its own sacks, its own, right, kelim, its own vessels. They're not mixed up today, these things. So therefore, right, it's very unlikely you're going to find ever in a bag of rice, you go buy Carolina rice in the supermarket, you're not going to find over there wheat. Understand? It's very, very, almost like 0% chance you're going to find something like that. So therefore, right, the reason also doesn't apply. Understand? That they used to keep it in the old days. And also, there's a different issue, right? The question is like this: was this made as a forbidden thing, or was it just we don't do it? That was something you don't do, but it's not really forbidden. It's just we don't do, it's a safeguard. We don't do it, but it's not really something which was made like something which harshly forbidden. Because by the Ashkenazim, by the way, the issue of eating rice on Pesach, it's strictly forbidden. By them, it was like something which was taken as a neder, as a vow. For them, it's very strict. So for them, they can't come nowadays and say, like this, right? They're going to say, oh, reason doesn't apply anymore, so we're not going to keep it anymore. Because it was then like an enactment, by the rabbis.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Right. That's the idea. So, right. So since by the Georgians it wasn't taken on so strong like it was taken on by the Ashkenazim. By the Ashkenazim it was taken on like an absolute manner. Right. But Georgians, it was like, here, yes, here, no, your father, your mother does like this, everybody's got. So it's not really considered to be so strong. There's also another thing, by the way, which you have to point out. That what? According to Afkat Rochel, Maran Bet Yosef, he has a tshuva in Afkat Rochel, Reish Yusiman, Reish Bet. He says over there that when a person leaves one country and moves to a different country, emigratsia, goes from, like we did, right? So, says the Maran Afkat Rochel, that a person leaves his country, he doesn't take this minhagim with him, with luggage, like, in a bag, carries it over, like carry over, right? That doesn't work like that. The minhag only applies to that place where you live there. Once you go to a different country, now you have to keep the minhagim with that country. You lose your minhagim that you left over there. So the truth is, right, technically speaking, it makes sense, right? Exactly. The minhag only applies to the place.
When in Rome, do as the Romans.
Right, exactly. That's the idea, right? That's wherever you are, that's where you keep, right? So the idea is like this. Now, the truth is that Maran Rabbi, my rabbi, used to tell all the people over there in Israel, if you came from all your countries, Morocco, Tunis, Bukhara, Persia, Georgians, right? Georgians, this, okay. You're not anymore considered to be, technically speaking, Georgian or Bukharian or Persian. You're Israeli. That's exactly. You have to take on the minhagim of Israel. That's the idea, right? So since we have today, that's the question, right? That's the question. We're going to talk about that. Since we have today, right, that every place almost that you live today in Jews, there's Sephardi community and there's Ashkenazi community, right? So that always has to be separate. Right? Ashkenazi cannot become Sephardi, and Sephardi cannot become Ashkenazi in most places. That's the way it is today. There's like two bet din, two courts are everywhere, almost everywhere. By the way, today, even in Moscow, which was always Ashkenazi place, right? Yeah. They have Sephardi community over there. Yeah. They have Sephardi shuls. Yes. So today, things are a little bit different than they used to be in the old days, right? That's the idea.
I was hoping that we as Jews, because we're the real religion, that we would all keep the same thing.
When Mashiach comes, it'll be like that, David. But until Mashiach comes, we have, like this, right? We have this two-tiered system, right? Right, and that's also true. But when Mashiach comes, it'll be one. It'll be unified, right? It'll be totally unified.
You keep Passover the same way, or you don't.
Right. But there's also an advantage to that, by the way, to keep all the customs, the various customs. You know what the advantage is? The advantage is that since these opinions are all we say, right? Since all these opinions are considered to be Divrei Elohim Chaim, the words of the living God, all the opinions of the Talmud and the Rishonim, the earlier authorities. So therefore, it's considered to be something good that, according to Kabbalah, that all these opinions are being kept by somebody, because it gives it like an effect, effectuation in the world. If you don't use that minhag of that opinion, it's like it gets bottled, gets nullified, gets forgotten, gets buried. So the only thing which breathes life into it is that somebody's doing it. Understand? That's the idea, right? So that's why when we're galut, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted, it should be like this, that every community is keeping a different minhag. Why is that? Because this way all the opinions are being covered, right? So all the Torah is being covered, which is considered something good. But the truth is, once Mashiach comes, for sure, right? Then when you have a high court, they're going to sit there, the high court, and go case by case, right? And decide what's the halakha, right? Do we do it like this? Do we do it like that? Everything's going to be decided, and that's it, right? But the truth is, you should know, by the way, that in Olam Haba, we're not going to lead all this system, right? As we talked about this on Tuesday.
Do you have a minhagim also?
I'll tell you something interesting, right? That as we mentioned, right, on Tuesday, that the whole system of halakha, we need in Olam Hazeh more, right? But once Olam Haba comes, which is coming back to the state of Adam Arishon and Gan Eden, coming back to the same state, and even going higher than that, right? Even higher spiritually. We're going to go even further than that. So it's not going to be any more necessary to have all these halachot and all these things, right? These things. Because all these halachot, as we mentioned on Tuesday, are designed to what? To keep us away from the bad part of the world, right? The evil part of the world. To keep us away from that. But once the Olam Haba comes, everything is good, everything is, nice and peachy and rosy. You don't need anymore really so much halakha, right? To be so, religious, this you cannot do, this you cannot eat, you cannot eat like this, eat like that. All these things are designed for this world. But for the world to come, we're not going to need any more. There's so much to those things, right? It's going to be pretty much abolished. Right?
Much easier.
Exactly, much easier, right? Much more spiritual over there. More focused on knowledge than focused on.
It will be 100% spiritual.
Right, exactly. It's going to the spiritual is going to increase more and more. So we're not going to need so much the system of halachot. So until Mashiach comes, we're talking about, right? We're not going to need this.
That's Olam Haba, not Gan Eden.
No, Olam Haba is a different stage, by the way, right? There's Yemei Mashiach. That's one stage, right? Mm-hmm. We have Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. That's also two stages. It's a different stage.
Two times
right?
they had to come?
Right, exactly. The two Mashiachs, right? We have. Then once that's over, then you have Olam Haba. That's already a different stage, a higher level, right? And says the Kadosh, after that also it's going to be higher and higher. It's going to go higher and higher. This time, less physical and more spiritual. We're still going to have a body, right? A physical body, you know. But it's going to become more and more spiritual. The body uplifted, elevated, right? More and more and more as time goes along. So that's the way it's going to be, right? So the truth is that until Mashiach comes, we're going to need halachot. After that, not so much, right? That's the idea, right? Until then, we're going to need it, whatever. So, but when Mashiach comes, it's going to be one halacha for sure, right? For everybody. That's for sure. So going back to what we said, right? I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's going to be Gan Eden after 120 years. Then Mashiach ben Yosef.
No, first Mashiach ben Yosef, then Mashiach ben
The
David.
person dies, he goes upstairs, right?
Right. That Gan Eden exists even now. It exists. Yeah, right. Exists now as well. Right. Exactly. Really, yeah, it's not really so connected, whatever. Except that they say what the soul of Mashiach is in Gan Eden, right? So he has to come from there, right? He's waiting for us, right? He's waiting. He's on standby, on call. You know what I mean? When he gets to, huh? Nobody knows, right? We don't know. That's hidden, right? That's the idea.
I've got the rabbis. They know, probably.
We don't know. Nobody knows, right? Says Kadosh, nobody really knows, right? Exactly the time of Mashiach, something which is hidden, right? Whatever. Anyway, the point is, right? That as we can, so now we say, right? Like, we don't know. Nobody knows. If they tell you something, it's all hearsay. Believe me. It's all brain batilim,
The end of the times, and the world is being created for 6,000 years.
Right. So that's the idea. Once 6,000 years comes, that's already Olam Haba. Understand? Mashiach is going to come before 6,000.
It's going to be Gog and Magog, the war.
Right, Gog and Magog, right. First Mashiach ben Yosef, then Gog and Magog, then Mashiach ben David, then Olam Haba. 6,000 is already Olam Haba. That's something else, right? Different levels, going up and higher, and higher. That's the idea, right?
Does it say in the Torah what's going to be after 6,000 years?
And that's what Kadosh describes. It's going to be something like more miraculous, as we said, more spiritual world, less physical, more spiritual, right? They say that Olam Haba, 6,000, there's not even going to be any more procreation anymore, right? Having children and sex and all, relations with women. It's all going to be abolished, these things, right? There's not going to be any more of these things. A person thinks, the world was made for these things, like this main pleasure in life, to find this girl, find that girl. In their world, Olam it's going to be much more pleasure than that, right? Much more pleasurable. They say, right, whatever you can get pleasure in this world, right? Whatever it is you do, right? All the pleasure of the world, it's only 1/60th of Olam Haba, So the pleasure over there is much, much greater. It's much the right.
What is it?
Yeah, we can't even imagine, right? Exactly. Truth is, we can't even imagine, right? The pleasure is so great. So
it's good, right?
Yeah, it's the best. Not good, right? It's like euphoria, Euphoria, right? You've told euphoria, right? That's the idea, right? That's euphoria that you can imagine.
But only if you promise you don't get upset. I have the ultimate question. Do you personally believe all this stuff will happen?
It's a very good question.
Listen, if you,
No, the rabbi is
I think what it is. I think this question is redundant, David, because if I don't believe it, I shouldn't be here, right? Exactly. I should be in the church, more, maybe in the Reform synagogue, Reform rabbi.
Wait a second. And the church is waiting for their second coming. So,
Yes.
It's not the same thing.
I know.
It's not the same thing. So anyway, the point is like this, right? The question, to be honest with you, the question is pretty much redundant. It's pretty much,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, because if you truly believe in it, that makes me believe it.
Yeah.
I want to tell you one thing, by the way. You asked a good question.
Will go higher,
You should know, by the way, that the purpose of having a rabbi is not just to learn his words, what he says. It's to see what he does. You know what I mean? How he behaves and how he looks also.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I can tell you, just from my own experience, right? The best thing that I learned from my rabbi, it's not what he told us. That was also very great, right? It was like, Har Sinai. It was standing by him was like being on Har Sinai. That's what it was. Like receiving the Torah on Har Sinai. Believe me when I tell you, I'm not exaggerating. So what happens like this, right? That's very good, Baruch Hashem. Hearing the rabbi's words and reading his books. He wrote 54 books. We have his books. We study his books. But above all that was something else. Just looking at the rabbi was really the best thing.
How many hours you were studying? Let's say a week or
every day we used to see him. Every day. Can you imagine? This is like Moshe Rabbeinu. Sometimes 1 hour, sometimes 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours. Depending on the schedule, right? Can you imagine? We're praying with him over there, praying with him, going to his house. Eating with him. He used to invite us to eat. I mean, this was like a daily thing. We were also his neighbors. It's like next door neighbors. That's the way it was.
He was a good person, right?
Huh?
He was a very good person.
The best, nobody compares to him, right? Moshe Rabbeinu, you can imagine what he was, right? So I can tell you, right, the best thing for me, the best therapy for me, was just to sit and look at the man, to look at him. You know why? Because you saw somebody who had total faith in Hashem, like 100%, no gaps. You know what I mean? This is exactly what you're talking about. You see, the thing is like. So now, like, interesting, right? That we just look at him, and just it was therapeutical for me because I was, as a pathetic specimen that I was, I didn't have that level of faith. You know what I mean? But when you look at somebody who does, right? When you look at somebody who does, you start to like really believe because you see it's all emet. By this man, everything was true. It was all life. You know what I mean?
Why doesn't Hashem give people like him immortality?
Because of the sin of the Adam Arishon, right? That's everybody has to die, right? That's the idea, right? It was decreed on all mankind to die. As we said, the only one who escaped that was Eliyahu Navi. As we said, right? Eliyahu Navi was the only one who escaped.
One question. What person has to do to grow his emunah? Let's say someone can believe 90%.
As we said, right? The best thing is to,
person has to practice.
For me, I'll tell you, to see my rabbi was the best emunah that I could get. Number one, right? Number two, also to hear his Torah, to hear his right. Everybody has his own rabbi. Everybody has whatever Hashem gave them. Supplied them. So you got to get the most out of what you can get.
Suggestion you have give this person.
But for me, it was like being with the rabbi on a daily basis. I was breaking into going there. I would push my way in. No matter what, it's crowded, not crowded. Because I wanted to be so much with him. I wanted to be so much with him. It was like my soul was burning for that. It was like it was. It was.
Do you believe in God? Yes or no?
Come on, give me a break.
No, yes or no? Honestly.
We try our best to believe, obviously.
What do you mean we try to? Do you believe in God? Yes
of course we believe. Of course we believe. What's the question?
Do you believe in God? So right there is your emunah.
No, believing God is one thing. But
how observant you are.
How observant.
That's different.
And my question was how the person can grow his emunah to observe more.
Observe more. Oh. Listen.
But you know what it is, Jimmy? That when a person fully observes and he fully talks it fully like that, so that's really like the real belief. When you're fully observant, that means that you don't fail. There's no false over there. You don't waver. It's not tufta, it's something real.
But you cannot do everything, right?
We try our best, whatever. What I'm telling you is like this rabbi, my rabbi, Allah Shalom Rahman, he was 100% Torah, nothing else was in there, Like no fillers, no byproducts, no preservatives. 100% Torah, that's the way he was.
I mean, emunah is as high as my emunah, is as high as your emunah. You believe that there's
different levels, Jimmy. There's different levels. There's different levels.
But
no question about it.
Your observance is different from mine, from his. That's different.
So as we said all the time, we gotta finish up, right? We gotta finish up. David's already in a hurry. I see he's in a hurry. So we gotta finish up, right? So we gotta go like this, right? Regarding what we said, regarding the minhagim, as we said, if a person leaves his country and goes to a different country, he's not really obligated to keep the old minhagim. He's obligated to the new minhagim. That's the idea, right? But the question is like this, right? What about if you come to a place like America? So what happens then is like this, right? That here there is no minhag. Every community has a different minhag because they gathered from all kinds of different countries, right? Some came from this place, from that place, right? From Ashkenaz, from Sfarad, from Spain, from Georgia, from Bukhara, from Persia, from Morocco, from Tunis, came all kinds of different places, Poland, Russia, Germany, right? Everybody came from somewhere else. So the truth is, America has no set minhag. You know what I mean? It's a custom. It's like a smorgasbord. You go right. A lot of confusion, right? That's the idea. So the truth is, I always had a dilemma regarding this, right? What is considered to be the minhag of America? No, because every place has minhag. What about America? There is no set minhag. Everybody has a different minhag. So the question is, are you obligated to keep your minhagim with the community that you live in, or not? Yes, no, or his community or my community? 108th Street, right? Yellowstone, right? Which one is the real minhag? So I found, the truth is, right, something really nice regarding this. Just recently, I was looking for something, and Kadosh Baruch Hu helped me. So what we found was like this, right? It says in the Mahashdam, one of the big poskim, who was about 300 years ago. This man, right, he was a big posek. He wrote some interesting books also in halakha. He also was living in a place called Salonika, right, Saloniki, right? So why is this community considered to be so important? Because over there also, there was an ingathering of all kinds of people that came from different places, and they gathered in there to this place, Salonika, right, Saloniki, and they made one big community. Right, it's in Greece, yeah, it's exactly, yeah. Yes, this was considered to be one of the great Jewish communities, by the way, of all time, Big rabbis there, huge Jewish culture, right? It's until this day, by the way, they say, right, that the culture there is very prevalent, amongst the Goyim also, they know, like, all these things. They remember, there's a lot of memories there, a lot of memoirs, all kinds of things. So what happens like this, right, that says this Marshdam, who was living there, he says, since this place was gathered up from different areas, everybody came from a different place, and they came together in one community. They made one big, huge community. But the thing is, right, that everybody's keeping their own minhag. This shul, the Georgian shul, the Bukharian shul, right, the Persians, the Moroccans, everybody's got their own different minhag. So the question is, which is considered to be the real minhag of the place? So you know what he says over there? That since it's like fragmented like this, one place another, so he says that there is really no minhag over there in this place. The only thing which is considered to be a minhag of a place, you know what it is? When everybody keeps it like that. But since you have fragmentation like this, from one community to another, so he says in a place like that, there is no minhag. So therefore, what do you really have to keep? So you know what he says? You have to keep the Hazanu Ladin Torah. What does that mean? Just the laws of the Torah. Mm-hmm. There's not considered to be any minhag in a place like that, which gathered up right like this from different. It's like a all kind of. It's like a hybrid. It's a hybrid community. It's whatever. That's what we call it, right? Whatever. So because of that, he says that there is no minhag like that. So therefore, really, the truth is that what is a person obligated to keep over there? The Shulchan Aruch. Why is that? Because the Shulchan Aruch was decreed on all, was accepted by all the Jewish people, right? No matter where you are, no matter where you live. So therefore, if you're Sephardi, you keep the laws of Maran Beit Yosef. That's the idea, right? If you're Ashkenazi, you keep the laws of the Ramah, right? The custom of the Ashkenazim, whatever it is. But regarding the subcategories, the sub-minhagim, these all kinds of fragmentations, the Georgians, the Bukharians, and this and that, the Persians and the Morocco and all these things in our place where we live over here, since it's all fragmented, they're not considered to be the custom of the place. That's what he says, right? It's considered to be something very important, what he's saying. So therefore, the truth is, right, that the only person, so therefore this is also another reason why by us, right, by the Georgians, we're not really obligated anymore to keep this custom of the rice, not eating rice. You know why? Because we here now are not Georgians anymore. I mean, technically speaking, we may feel Georgian, in your heart. I don't know if you feel Georgian, whatever. Some more than others, right? Whatever. But the truth is that when it comes to minhagim, that you left that behind. Unless you're planning to go back there, by the way, right? Depends if a person is planning to go back, just coming to visit for a while, to do business or something, and he's going to go back, that's something else. He has to keep his old minhagim, because he's going back. But if you never plan to go back to Tbilisi, right, Kutaisi, Kulashi, whatever, all these places, right, you're not planning to go back there, so therefore, all these minhagim, we left them behind. So therefore, Rabbi, if you come to Eretz Israel, the rule is, right, practically speaking, that you have to keep the minhagim of the Eretz Israel, because over there are minhagim. There are minhagim that everybody more or less keeps, right? Ashkenazim this, Sephardim that, that's something else, right? But in a place like this where it's all fragmented, right? So the truth is that here, the only thing you're really obligated to keep is one thing, right? If you're Sephardi, do like Sephardi. If you're Ashkenazi, do like Ashkenazi. That's about it. All the other is like bonus, If you want to do more, right, according to your customs, right, God bless you, all kinds of things like this, right? All these things. Keep it if you want to keep it, but there's no obligation. And what does that mean? If you don't keep these things, you're not going to get punished. So therefore, for sure, right, when it comes to these things, but regarding also what you mentioned, Rabbi, also when you mentioned this, right? When a person does something 3 times, it's considered like a nether, right? As we said. You know when that applies? That only applies if he knew for sure that this is permitted, but he wanted to take it on as forbidden for himself or as for his community. Then it's forbidden, right? But if he thought that it was not allowed to do these things, he was doing because he thought it was not allowed, right? And now all of a sudden he wakes up and tells, some rabbi tells him, really the truth is, you thought it was not allowed, it's really allowed. So it was just a mistake that he was keeping it. You understand? So therefore, in a case like that, it's not considered to be a nether. It's only if you took it on willingly, knowingly that this is permitted, and you make it forbidden for yourself. Right. So then you need hatara. What does that mean? You need to go to in front of a beddin and annul the nether. If you want to annul, right? Gabatlos, nether. But if it's something which you thought which was asuru, and now, right, you realize somebody told you that it was never asur, you didn't know what you were doing. Right, so that kind of minhag doesn't obligate him either. So for that, if he wants to cancel a neder like that, he's not obligated to do atat nedarim. Right? Also, let's say, for instance, his parents were keeping a certain minhag, right? He doesn't want to keep the minhag of his parents. It's not the minhag of the community. His parents do it. He's not obligated to keep that. So therefore, he doesn't need to atat nedarim in a case like that, right? His parents took on some things to do it this way, to do it that way. When he grows up, makes his own family, he's not obligated to keep those minhagim. Right? Why is that? Because that's the only minhag, that's personal minhag that your parents had. It has nothing to do with you. Right? That's the idea. So that's the idea, Rabbi. So a person has to know, right? If you know all these things, right, it makes life a little bit easier. That we have to know that whatever we left behind in the old country, that's history already, right? If you want to keep it, God bless you. You don't want to keep it, no problem, right? Either way, right, you're okay. But just the one thing, right? Keep the Shulchan Aruch, right? Whatever is mutar is mutar. Whatever is asur is asur. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen. Amen. Thanks for coming. Chazak u'baruch. God bless you. Blessed Derech. Blessed, right? Be blessed.